guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you something a little bit different today. As you guys can see, I am sitting in the SR4U boot room, also known as my basement. If you'd like to see kind of a tour of this particular room where I'm sitting, I'll leave an annotation on screen. You can go ahead and check out the video I made touring the SR4U boot room. But what we're going to be kind of showcasing in today's video is my entire Nike Mercurial collection. A lot of you guys have been asking to see some collection videos, so this is the first of what I think is going to be a series on my channel, given that you guys want to see more, which I assume you will based on, like I said, the demand that I've had for this style of video. So obviously surrounding me to my sides as well as behind me, these are pretty much all the Mercurials that I own that are in brand new condition. Some of them are used, but for the most part, this is what I would consider to be my Nike Mercurial collection. So it totals out to be about 80 pairs, and we're gonna take a look at each pair individually in this video. Not sure how long it's gonna end up being, probably pretty long, but if you have a fascination for Nike Mercurials, being that it is definitely one of, if not the most popular line of soccer cleats / football boots of all time, stick around and watch the video. You'll learn some things, and it'll probably bring back some memories if you've been around for a little bit longer or just a longtime fan of the Mercurial series. So a couple quick, not necessarily disclaimers, but questions that I know a lot of people are going to ask before we get into the individual shoes themselves. The first question that I know is going to be very commonly asked is, why do I have all of these shoes? Are you absolutely crazy? Yes, I am probably a little bit crazy, but it's gotten me pretty far in life so far, so I can't really say that I'm looking to change my ways. But this is a collection that I guess started 4 years ago when I started this whole YouTube soccer reviews for you thing in the first place. I didn't really have much of a personal collection. Everything that I had, I wore, which I guess is probably what most people do. But since this whole YouTube thing started, and since you guys have really supported my channel really well, this collection, I guess, derived from a couple different things. One, kind of my passion and just general interest for soccer cleats in general. A lot of these shoes I wasn't able to have or never really had access to as a kid. So now that I was kind of a little bit more established and I could get my hands on these shoes, obviously I chose to bring them in just because it's something that I really do love. The second reason why I brought them in is for the sake of content for this channel. I would say that 99% of the shoes that I'm going to be showing you in this video, there are actually videos of already up on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to post annotations for each individual shoe because that would be absolutely insane. But if you do see a particular shoe that you'd like to see more details on, if you just do a quick YouTube search, my videos should pop up, because there aren't a lot of videos, for example, on the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. It's just not a particular common thing. It's pre-YouTube, if you will. So again, if you see something that you want to see more details on in this video, just do a quick search and you should be able to find my video on that particular shoe. The second question I know a lot of you guys are going to ask is, where do you get all of these shoes? Obviously, a lot of the newer stuff is behind me, as you guys can see, but there's some older stuff here too. Where do you buy Vapor 1s? Where do you buy Vapor 4 SLs? Where do you get Superfly 1s? And the answer to that question is 95% of these older shoes were purchased off eBay over time. So like I said, over the course of the last 4 years, I kind of scour eBay and pick out certain shoes that I would like to have in my collection. The other place where I get a lot of shoes is every once in a while, just because I have been somewhat of an internet personality over the last few years, is that some people will kind of get in contact with me with a pair of shoes that they'd like to sell. And if we can work out a price, I buy some shoes. But for the most part, the majority of this collection has been purchased off of eBay, and a lot of the newer stuff, or the stuff that I've kind of accumulated or had been released while I've been doing this YouTube thing, were purchased from a store, or were attained from a store, I should say. The last question I know a lot of you guys are going to ask is, how much is this entire collection worth? How much did you spend on all of it? And if I'm completely honest with you guys, there aren't too many shoes here where I've spent a lot of money on a single pair. There are a few that I've spent way too much on, but for the most part, I would say that 95% of these older shoes that I purchased off eBay and from other people, I didn't pay more than the retail price, the original retail price. One quick thing that I want to talk about in this video is just the whole resale market when it comes to older soccer cleats / football boots. There's a big misconception on general worth of something that is a little bit older or something that is perhaps limited edition. I know that obviously the sneaker resale market is a very, very big deal, but soccer cleats and sneakers are not the same thing. There's just not the same demand for a soccer cleat as there is for a retro Jordan sneaker or something like that. Something that people are actually going to wear casually, or obviously are just collecting. So what I mean by that is eBay, which is obviously where you're going to find the majority of this stuff being resold by people that actually have the products, is kind of a free-for-all. Just because you see a shoe listed on eBay for $500, $1,000, $2,000 doesn't necessarily mean that that product is worth $2,000. I think a great example is this shoe right here. This is a recently released CR7 edition Superfly 4. Pretty limited, relatively difficult to get your hands on, but you're going to see them on eBay listed for $500, $1,000, $2,000, which gives this misconception that these are extremely valuable shoes. And while there is more value to this colorway than a general release colorway just because it was more limited, it doesn't mean it's worth $2,000. If I have this pair and I put them on eBay for $2,000, that doesn't make them worth $2,000. It also doesn't mean that people are actually buying them for $2,000 either. So just keep that in mind with eBay. It really is kind of a free-for-all. You can go to your local park, pick a rock off the ground, take some pictures and post it on eBay for $100. Doesn't mean you have a $100 rock. So my best advice if you are looking to purchase an older pair or a limited edition pair of sneakers on eBay, or soccer cleats on eBay I should say, is one, make sure that they're authentic, because there's a lot of counterfeit shoes on eBay. The second thing is the condition. I really wouldn't spend a lot of money on a used pair of shoes, especially if they are limited or somewhat collectible, just because used shoes, they have even less value than a new pair would have. And three, don't overpay. You don't have to pay $2,000 for a pair of shoes. In my opinion, there really aren't any general release or limited edition shoes from the past or the present really that are worth $2,000. That's just a little bit crazy in my opinion. Pay as much as you would like to pay for a pair of shoes. The buyer can ask what the buyer thinks they're worth, and if the seller agrees, then hey, you can make a deal. But if the seller just wants too much, you just have to walk away. Don't pay an obscene amount of money for a single pair of shoes, because quite frankly it just isn't worth it. So that's kind of my quick little disclaimer at the start of this video, kind of explaining how I came about all of these different Nike Mercurials. If you have any questions or require clarification on anything that I just talked about, leave those questions down below in the comments. And with that being said, let's get right into the Nike Mercurial collection that is gotten out of control. Alright, so here is just a look at the entire collection. I apologize for the lighting, guys. I'm in a basement. There's really no source of natural light down here. And it's just a general dark area, so it's hard to make the lighting kind of even across the entire room, especially given how there's just not a lot of space down here. I kind of cleared all this open area to have these sitting on the ground, but again, if it gets a little bit shadowy or a little bit darker than it should be, I apologize for that in advance. But we're basically going to go one by one. I didn't put them in any specific order, just because I didn't feel a need to. I figured it'd be a little bit more interesting if it was kind of random. Surely I will misspeak a couple times throughout this video. So if I say a name wrong, or I say a color wrong, or I say a shoe wrong, don't be too surprised. Anyways, we'll start, I guess, from left to right. So the very first Mercurial that I have right here is a Mercurial that I would say that most people probably aren't aware exists. This is the Air Zoom Mercurial pre-vapor. So definitely not that kind of classic Mercurial silhouette. This does not feature a Tasian synthetic upper, which obviously was kind of a key characteristic of the Vapor 1 up until the current Vapor 10, and then of course the Superfly line had Tasian synthetic. Now it's Flyknit, but this is a really interesting shoe. Not what you think of when you think Mercurial, but believe it or not, if you didn't know already, this was the Mercurial before the actual Vapor, which obviously has the more classic Mercurial look. Next to that, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 4s. I actually did have a pair of these when they were brand new, back in whatever year the Vapor 4 was. Honestly, I don't even remember. There's been a Vapor pretty much every year and a half for quite some time now, but this is a colorway that I had. Really nice pair of shoes. They fit me really well, but these little kind of pink pads on the heel there really caused some major blisters, super uncomfortable, but I really like the look of this shoe. This is a pretty controversial Vapor in that they definitely made a big aesthetic change coming from the Vapor 1, 2, and 3. Not everybody liked the lace cover. Personally, I was a big fan, and I was a kid at the time, so this was kind of the latest and greatest Mercurial, and I thought it was pretty cool, especially in this lime green color. Next to that, we have a pair of Cactus Green Vapor 3s. So this particular colorway was kind of a remake of this one, if you will, the Vapor 3 being before the Vapor 4, of course. And the Vapor 3 is widely regarded as one of the best ever Mercurial vapors. I actually ended up picking up a pair of Vapor 3s back when the Vapor 4 was current for really, really cheap on sale. And I actually wore them, and honestly, I didn't like them as much as the Vapor 4. That was my personal experience. I know a lot of people just really, really like this shoe, but again, really uncomfortable in the heel area due to this kind of yellow foam material that they have incorporated there. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 2s in this navy blue color. These are, of course, soft ground, as you guys can see. Really aggressive soft ground stud pattern. This is really the second ever Mercurial Vapor. Moving on, we've got the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. So this is really the shoe that I think defined the whole Mercurial line and what made it so popular in the first place. It was the first synthetic shoe that Nike released, or that any company released, that really caught on. People love the idea of a super slim fitting, super thin synthetic, ultra lightweight shoe that had this kind of second skin effect. This was the shoe that really revolutionized and changed soccer cleats for pretty much every shoe after it. If you look at soccer shoes now, they're all thinner, they're all tighter fitting, they all kind of mimic kind of what the Vapor 1 did quite some time ago. So that is a very, very important shoe if you're just talking about the history of soccer cleats in general. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s. Is this a 9? Yeah, it is a Vapor 9. These are custom painted. This was a CR7 colorway, and these were custom painted by Picasso Customs, who, when they did this one, they weren't particularly well known. Now they are fairly popular, a lot better known, and these are basically a one of one. They did these for me. I sent them the shoes, and the turnout was pretty cool. It's got this really interesting kind of snake, almost toxic-like effect to it. I'm not sure what the pattern is exactly supposed to be, but basically they filled in the white part with all these different colors, and honestly, it's a pretty cool looking shoe. It's a one-of-one custom, and it's really the only custom painted shoe that I have in my collection. Next to those, I have a pair of Vapor 4 SLs in the Blue Lagoon colorway, which I think is really nice. This is my personal favorite colorway of the Vapor 4 SL. Vapor 4, really cool looking shoe in my opinion, and the SL model was just that much cooler. It had the carbon fiber sole plate as well as the carbon fiber heel counter. This is the Superfly before the Superfly 1, if you want to call it that. Next to those, I have a pair of the launch colorway of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 2. Really interesting colorway. I can't say that I was a big fan when this originally came out, but it's a cool one to have just because it is the first colorway, which is generally what people remember when kind of looking back on older Mercurials. A lot of people had them because it was the first colorway, but definitely a questionable colorway release in my opinion. Above those, we have a pair of limited edition Nike Mercurial X Proximos. Yeah, this was Proximo at this point in time. It wasn't the other variation, the Elastico Superfly still. So this is a limited edition of the Silverware CR7 Superfly colorway that they made in an indoor model without the CR7 branding. So it obviously has the silver glittery sparkle effect, which is really cool. But instead of the CR7 logo right there on the inside, it just has a standard Nike swoosh, white swoosh with a black outline, and then again all the other colors that you'd find on the regular CR7 Superfly. Next to those, we have Cristiano Ronaldo's first ever signature colorway of the Superfly, or first ever signature colorway for a Mercurial model. This is a Superfly 2, and in my opinion, one of the best colorways of Mercurial all time. It's obviously got that classic white and black safari print from Nike all over the place with the orange accent, the carbon fiber sole plate. Really, really cool shoe. Wasn't a huge fan of the Superfly 2 in all honesty, but still a really, really cool looking shoe. Next to those, we have the Superfly 1, which another super uncomfortable shoe. I was one of those kids that was lucky enough to have a Superfly 1 when it was kind of the current thing to have. And honestly, I didn't have them for more than a couple weeks just because it was pretty much unwearable, so stiff, so uncomfortable, and really, I think it's the one shoe that I just couldn't get used to. It's just not a great shoe. And some people look back on these and absolutely love them. It's super cool. It's super modern looking even by today's standards. It was the first shoe to incorporate flywire technology. It had the cord out stud, which I thought was the coolest thing at the time. I mean, it is really a technologically advanced shoe, but in comparison to modern day Mercurial Superfly 4s, honestly, these are so much worse. Next to those, we have probably the most rare shoe in this entire video, or what will be in this entire video. These are Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s, a CR7 colorway. Only 100 pairs were made. I was super lucky to be able to get a pair of these. And it's basically just a shoe that they made in commemoration of an amazing season that Cristiano Ronaldo had. All these little numbers you see listed on the side pay reference to obviously milestones that he hit throughout the season. And it's just a really good looking shoe. It's got the CR7 branding there on the medial side of the heel. It's got this kind of bright mango, like light orange color with the white base. It's got the dimpling, given that it is a Vapor 9. And again, it's just a really nice colorway. Again, only 100 pairs made. I would say that in terms of actual value, this definitely would be one of the most valuable shoes that I actually own. Next to those, obviously you guys have seen a video on these recently. I know a lot of you guys will be asking when I'm getting the alternate to this particular colorway. This is part of a two-part pack, if you will. The other one is silver with the red heel. I did get a pair. They're on the way. Expect to see them relatively soon. Unfortunately, they didn't make it into this video, but again, you guys know what these are. The video went up on these relatively recently. Next to those, we have a pair of what is technically not a Mercurial, but I have them, and I guess if you're going to consider it anything, it would be a Mercurial. This is the Nike Green Speed, the original Green Speed. So again, it's technically not a Mercurial, but it's very much Mercurial inspired, I would argue. And it's a cool pair of shoes. This is in brand new condition. This is pair number 613 of 2002, if the camera will focus there. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's etched there in the heel. But this is a shoe that was a really cool concept, really cool looking. Has this really crazy looking sole plate and stud pattern. But in all honesty, I didn't wear the Green Speed 1. I wore the Green Speed 2. They're pretty much the exact same thing with the addition of ACC technology on the Green Speed 2. But actually a terrible shoe to wear. I would say it probably is the tie with the Superfly 1 in terms of one of the worst, most uncomfortable shoes that I've personally ever worn. It's just really not a pleasant shoe or a pleasant experience at all. Next to those, I have another pair of really kind of hard to get shoes. These are the recently released Ballon d'Or Superfly 4s. Again, kind of a CR7 signature that was supposed to be not released to the public at first, but they ended up releasing a version to the public. It was supposed to be a CR7 only thing. Obviously his was modified. That's what they showed off in the press releases, but then due to demand, several months later, they ended up releasing a regular version of the Superfly to the public. 333 pairs. I did manage to get a pair. These I had to buy in the resale market. I paid a little bit too much for them, but you guys were asking to see a video. I put the video up, and quite frankly, I wanted a pair myself. Next to those, I have a pair of Black History Month Superfly 4s. I'm actually going to bring these in some better lighting because it's worth seeing. This is a really cool shoe. Another shoe I had to buy in the resale market. These were extremely hard to get. Again, I paid way too much money for these, but it's such a good looking shoe. These are actually size 10, so it's one of the very few shoes in all of my collection that isn't actually my size. But like I said, I had to get what I could get for a price that I consider to be at least somewhat reasonable. So I picked them up. No numbers were really given for this particular shoe, but I have to imagine it was less than 100 just based on what's out there. It seems like very few people actually managed to get a pair through the Nike football app or Nike soccer app. And again, really happy to have them. Probably the best colorway of the Superfly 4, just in terms of outright detail. Really good looking shoe. So moving on, above that we have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 5s. Now these are a shoe that, again, I had Vapor 5s back when it was a current model. Not this particular colorway, but this is definitely one of the better colorways in my opinion. Pretty much all banana yellow with the black Nike swoosh right there. Another controversial shoe. Not many people really like the Nike Mercurial Vapor 5. And really, I think from the Vapor 4 up until really the Vapor 7, the Vapor line was kind of dead. People were really focused on the Superfly, which you could say is still the case today. But like I said, from Vapor 4 to Vapor 7, Nike wasn't doing too much exciting stuff with the Vapor line, although the Vapor 5 was actually a pretty good shoe. It's pretty much exactly what we got from the Vapor 4, just in a more comfortable style, I guess. This was a much more comfortable shoe overall. They ditched those things in the heel, and again, it just fit a lot better in my opinion. Next to those, I have the launch colorway of the Vapor 5. Pretty much the exact same shoe, just in a different colorway, as you guys can see. Next to those, I have the Vapor 6, which I would say is probably one of the most easily forgotten Vapors. The only one that I would say is probably less popular is the Vapor 7, but this is the Vapor 6, which has a similar design for the upper to what you're going to find on the Vapor 5, minus the flywire there on the medial side. And then, of course, they introduced this sole plate and stud pattern, which was kind of cool. The Superfly had the carbon fiber. This one had the glass fiber, which we did see for several years after this particular shoe. But nonetheless, an interesting look. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of half and half graphic, but that's something you got for the Mercurial line pretty much that entire year. Next to those, we have a pair of Nike Mercurial. Are these 8s or 9s? These are 8s. So this is a Vapor 8 in a CR7 colorway, as you guys can see. Black with the blue and kind of neon pink rim going around the edges. Pretty cool shoe. Kind of well received. This is one of those shoes that some people love, some people hated it. But it's one of the kind of, I don't want to say more subtle, but it is kind of a black base shoe. So when you were actually standing in the grass, what was kind of cool about this is you didn't actually see all the pink on the bottom of the shoe. It wasn't until you started running that the bright pink would kind of flash through because it would be visible. But nonetheless, really interesting colorway. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 4 SLs in charcoal. This is a firm ground one, unlike the soft ground one that I showed you earlier. Really, really good looking shoe. I love the Vapor 4 SL variation just with the carbon fiber heel counter and sole plate. It's just such a cool looking shoe. Very, very modern even by today's standards, even though it's technically 6 models behind now. Next to those, I have a pair of Galaxy Vapors. I'm sure you guys remember these. These were extremely popular, and I think if they re-released them right now, people would still be all over them. Really, really cool colorway. The Galaxy theme has been kind of a big thing in the sneaker world, I guess. So it was really cool to see them release something in the soccer industry with that Galaxy print. It just looks so good on the Nike Mercurial Vapor. Just a really, really cool shoe. Like I said, was a super popular release for Nike. Next to those, I have a pair of Vapor 7s, which I think is really probably the worst Vapor all time in terms of how it was received to the public. All the attention was on the Superfly 3 at the time, and this just, there was nothing exciting about this. It was basically the Vapor 6 minus the lace cover, and that's pretty much the only change that they made. This one is a CR7 colorway, so it is kind of unique in that it does have this kind of two-tone design. So from this side, it looks like it's gray with the thin pinstripes, and then from this side, it's got the gray, the orange, as well as the blue showing. So that's kind of a cool little aspect of this particular colorway. I have a pair of those in Superflies as well, which you guys will see in just a second. Here's a look at another pair of Vapor 9s, CR7 colorway. I showed you guys the custom painted ones right here. This is what they look like when they're not painted. So basically all the design that you see right there is just white on the regular pair. So probably, again, one of the worst received CR7 signature colorways that Nike has released. A lot of people just didn't like how these look. Above those, we have a pair of Nike Elastico Superflies. This was released alongside the original Superfly 4. This was a launch colorway in that Hyper Punch with the Volt and the Gold. And this was a very limited edition shoe. You just couldn't get these. They didn't make very many. They went for sale and sold out pretty much instantly. So this is kind of a more rare shoe. What's cool about this is it actually does have a glow-in-the-dark outsole, which a lot of people didn't realize until they actually got the shoes in their hands. I made a video on it, meaning that in that I didn't even know myself that they glowed in the dark. I was in the process of moving them, I believe, and I ended up turning the lights off in my room or my office where these were. And I noticed that the sole was glowing, so I made a video on it immediately, just because it's not something that Nike really announced with the actual release of the shoe, but it does have a glow-in-the-dark sole, which is pretty cool. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Veloce 2s, which is a current model, but this is a Nike ID variation that I made kind of as a tribute to this particular colorway of the Superfly 4, the original CR7 signature colorway, which I thought was really cool. The safari print was an option at first on Nike ID when the current Mercurial generation first came out. It no longer is. I don't believe it's going to be coming back either, but I really, really like the look of the white and black safari print on a Mercurial, so I ended up making that in the form of a Veloce 2, just because it wasn't an option on the Superfly, quite frankly. Next to those, I have a pair of Vapor 9s. Again, these are Nike IDs, so custom colorway I did. Really cool. It's got the white heel, and then it fades to this kind of silver color. I believe it's technically pure platinum. And then it has glow-in-the-dark laces as well as a glow-in-the-dark swoosh with a white stud plate. Really cool. Love the fact that it glows in the dark. It's just kind of a very clean, more subtle colorway of the Vapor 9. We didn't get too many of those. Next to that, I have a pair of Superfly 4s. Again, I got these on Nike ID when it first became available on the service, and like I said, the safari print was an option. I thought that this light blue color with the black safari print just looked really, really cool. So I made it in the form of a Superfly 4, and the end result is a really, really good looking shoe. Next to those, sorry guys, I'm running out of breath. I might take a break in a few seconds, and you might see an edit, but we're going to keep going for now. I've got a pair of Fast Forward 2010 Tribute Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s. This was part of a 4-part pack. The other one is there, and then the other two are right there, as you guys can see, the chrome and the yellow ones. But this is the one that kind of pays tribute to the 2010 World Cup pack, which was a really cool shoe. We're going to get to the actual original World Cup pack shoes in just a second, but this is what it looked like in the form of a Vapor 9. Next to those, I have the Nike GS2. Again, technically not a Mercurial. You guys saw the GS1 not too long ago. This was a GS2 that kind of incorporated their all conditions control technology. That was the main upgrade over the original Nike GS, and these were not nearly as limited. They weren't numbered, and pretty much everyone who wanted a pair got a pair, and that's why I ended up wearing them. And like I said, definitely not a positive experience. Not a fan of how these shoes feel at all. Next to those, we have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s in the reflective pack colorway. Really, really clean look. All white with the black swoosh. It's got the lime green accents in the translucent stud plate as well as the heel liner. And then it's got this reflective cheetah print, or leopard print, I'm not sure what you would call that, right there at the heel. That just looks really, really cool when you're kind of in like a stadium light environment. It does show the reflectiveness on the heel. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial X Proximos in the latest Savage Beauty colorway. This was, again, kind of one of the more limited edition colorways of the Mercurial X Proximo, with the same upper as the actual Savage Beauty Superfly 4. I didn't include all my Mercurial X Proximos in this video just because I didn't think it was necessary. The only ones I did include are the ones that were kind of limited edition. So those are the few indoors that you're actually going to see in this video. The other ones, like I said, I just decided not to include at all. Next to those, or above those I should say, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s in the Tropical Pack colorway. This was limited to 2,500 pairs. Hopefully it will focus, and you guys can see the numbering there on the heel. I have number 1268. One second, I can't even see through the light. 1269 is the number that I have, and these were available in 3 different colorways. There was an orange one, which is what I have right here. There was a blue one, and there was also a green variation. So basically swap out the orange for blue or green, and you can imagine what the other ones look like. I don't have them all. I just have the orange ones, but nonetheless, that was kind of an interesting, I guess, unspecific limited edition release, and there wasn't really much story behind the actual design itself. Next to those, I have the 15th anniversary Nike Mercurial. So these are really, really cool. I would love to have a pair of the originals of this particular shoe. This was kind of the R9 original Ronaldo. Really, really popular colorway. It's one of those pre-Mercurial Vapors again that really put Nike on the map for an actual synthetic shoe. This colorway is absolutely really amazing looking. Love the look of the chrome, the blue, as well as the Volt Yellow. Volt Yellow on the original pair was actually more of a standard yellow, but this was kind of an unheard of type colorway at the time that Ronaldo was actually wearing, and they remade it in the form of a Nike Mercurial Vapor 9, as well as made them numbered. So these are limited to 998, 1,998, given that, it was paying tribute to the Mercurials that the original Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, wore in the 1998 World Cup. So that was a really cool shoe. Glad to have those. And definitely one of the best looking modern day Mercurials in my opinion. Next to those, I have a really interesting pair of Superfly 1s. These are the Superfly 1s that didn't get released to the public. There were issues when the Superfly was still in development, or pre-production I should say, where a lot of professional players, Drogba was one of them, Luis Fabiano was one of them, and I want to say it was Andre Arshavin, who at the time was playing for Arsenal. They all ended up ripping a pair in-game, which was kind of an unheard of thing. You just don't see that very often. It happened 3 times in the span of, I want to say, a couple weeks, maybe a month. So Nike really took alarm to that, and basically these were already in production, but they decided to just kind of completely pull production, completely pull the plug on them. They didn't send them to retailers. They didn't end up in stores, and they basically remanufactured the shoe and made them a little bit different. So again, if you guys want to watch my video on this particular shoe, I go over all the differences in comparison to what eventually was the Nike Mercurial Superfly 1. But these got pulled, and basically the Superfly 1 was delayed 2 or 3 months until they were actually available to the public. So that was a really interesting thing. Probably Nike's biggest slip up in the modern era of soccer shoes, but a really cool story behind these if you guys want to check out that video. Next to those, I have a pair of Fast Forward Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s again. These ones again are, as you guys can see by the thing on this the heel here, it says 98. These are pay tribute to 1998. Again, technically this shoe, the World Cup Nike Mercurial, not sure how the colors don't match at all. There's not really much of an explanation behind the actual colorway, and honestly it is quite odd. I'm not a huge fan of how they look personally, but it is part of the pack. And a lot of people actually did end up liking this particular colorway with the green, the blue at the heel, and then the orange Nike swoosh. So next to those, we have a pair of Cristiano Ronaldo's second ever signature colorway. These are Nike Mercurial Superfly 3s. In this black on black safari print with the Volt yellow accent. Super clean colorway, definitely one of his better ones of all time. Then it has this cool little graphic here on the medial side as well. Really good looking shoe. Superfly 3, basically the same as the Superfly 2 with a couple minor changes, but for the most part it was a very stiff shoe, not the most pleasant to wear and kind of hard to get used to, but definitely more wearable than the Superfly 2 and the Superfly 1 in my opinion. Next to those, I have another pair of CR7 Superfly 3s. This was the colorway after this one basically, and you guys saw the Vapor 7s of this earlier. So the one side it's gray with the pinstripes, and then the other side it's the stripes that are blue and orange with the gray accenting as well. So it looks different depending on what side that you're looking at, which is kind of a cool little effect, something that I think Nike will probably do at some point again in the future. Next to those, I have a pair of Fast Forward Nike Mercurial Vapor 9s in the O2 colorway. So this kind of pays tribute to that classic chrome colorway of the Nike Mercurial Vapor. I'm not sure if it was a Vapor 1 or a Vapor 2, but obviously really cool. This one does have the dimpling to it, and it just has this really cool kind of mirrored chrome finish to it that just looks absolutely fantastic. Probably my favorite of the entire Fast Forward pack. And then next to those, you have an 06M Fast Forward Nike Mercurial Vapor 9. This pays tribute to the 2006 Nike Mercurial Vapor 3 in the kind of Brazilian themed colorway where it had the yellow with the green heel. Really, really good looking colorway of the Vapor 3. Probably one of the most desirable colorways as well, hardest to get your hands on, and whoever does have them, they're asking a ton of money. I'd love to have a pair of those in the Vapor 3 form, but like I said, it's just one of those shoes that the people that have them just want way too much money for them, and I can't justify the price tag. So, alright, so moving on, we have the women's Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. This was a recent release. You guys probably saw the video on these. But what's kind of cool about this shoe is, unlike previous Nike models with women's fit, these are exactly the same as the men's one. The only thing they changed is the sizing. So if you basically go up 1.5 sizes, they're going to fit just like a men's shoe would. So where I would normally wear a size 9 US in a men's Superfly 4, if I go up to a 10.5 women's Superfly 4, the fit, the sizing is absolutely identical. And basically, we just got another colorway of the Superfly 4. If you're a guy and you're looking to wear these, it's a really cool looking colorway. And again, it's a recent release, so a lot of you guys probably already saw the video. Next to those, we have the 2010 World Cup Superfly 2. Again, one of the most popular colorways all time as far as Mercurial is concerned. What was cool about this pack is that in the 2010 World Cup, all 4 silos from Nike, so the Mercurials, the T90s, the CTR 360, as well as the Tiempo line, all had this kind of light purple front, the orange heel, and then the black Nike swoosh. So you'd have teams like Brazil with pretty much all Nike sponsored athletes wearing what looked to be the exact same shoe because they were all the same colorway. So it was a super noticeable thing during the 2010 tournament, and the Superfly 2 was probably one of the most desirable shoes at the time as well. Next to those, I have a pair of older Mercurials. These are Talaria 2s, I want to say, so it's not a top-end Vapor model, but I got them for really cheap, and I just thought it was a really cool looking shoe, really cool colorway. I'd love to have this colorway in the form of a Vapor, but I don't. I have them in the Takedown Talaria model, so I mean, sometimes you just got to get what you can take. Next to those, I have a really interesting pair of shoes. These are Nike Mercurial Vapor 10s, but it's a pro-issued variation. So You don't see this quite as much now, but when the Vapor 10 first came out, a lot of professional players, because they were so used to the Vapor 8, the Vapor 9, and even the Vapor 7, this shoe actually has the Vapor 7 sole plate, as you guys can see, with a soft ground stud pattern. So I made a video on these kind of explaining why I think these are like the way they are, I guess. And it's kind of an interesting video, but just a cool modification of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. And what was kind of interesting about these is that you may find some on eBay right now listed for some crazy money, but they ended up being at like these different outlet and kind of, I guess, closeout stores in the US, like a Ross or these stores that basically buy dead stock, not dead stock, but older stock or just closeouts of different stuff from different brands, in this case Nike. And Nike ended up selling all of these kind of unused pro-issued stuff to them, and people were buying them up for $20, $30, $40 at these department stores, which is dirt cheap considering how much a Vapor 10 actually retails for, $200. These obviously not being regular Vapor 10s, but just keep that in mind if you see a pair on eBay and somebody's asking $500 because they may have got them for $40, so they're just trying to make some crazy money off you. And again, are they worth $500? I would argue no. Next to those, I have pretty much the exact same situation, but in the form of a Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. So these are arguably a little bit more desirable in that it's the Superfly 4 upper with that kind of unusual Vapor 7 bottom. The glass fiber, really cool looking, but again, something that they were at these kind of closeout department stores for super cheap, and some people are trying to ask crazy amounts of money for them now. Next to those, I have a pair of Vapor 6s in the 2010 World Cup colorway. So this goes exactly with the Superflies that you just saw, exact same colorway, just in the form of a Vapor 6. Next to those, I have a Silverware Superfly 4, which I would think that most of you guys are familiar with now. And at this point, we're going to be moving into definitely the more modern stuff, or the more recently released stuff that I have in my collection. Next to those, I have a pair of Nike Mercurial Superfly 4s in a colorway that there's a lot of misconception around. This was a colorway that Cristiano Ronaldo wore exclusively for about a month, and really he was the only professional player to wear them. That was obviously a marketing strategy from Nike, but a lot of people mistook this as an actual CR7 signature colorway. It wasn't. It's just a regular colorway of the Superfly 4 that he wore kind of exclusively. There's no CR7 branding anywhere on this shoe, but this was one of the very early release colorways of the Superfly 4 that was extremely popular, and a lot of people still want this colorway. If we move up, we're going to find a pair of basically Cristiano Ronaldo's first signature colorway for the Superfly 4, or the current generation of Mercurial. This is the Gala colorway that obviously features this black sparkle pattern. Really, really interesting looking. And then, of course, the Silverware one was the one that came after these. But really good looking shoe, all black with the sparkle. And then, of course, the white and kind of blue accents in the sole plate, which just looks really cool. Blue carbon. Definitely something that looks nice in my opinion. You have the liquid chrome colorway of the Superfly 4. You have the Silver Storm ones. You have the Women's World Cup Superfly 4, which is this blue chrome color. Very, very cool with the Volt Yellow, white, and black accents. Again, you guys probably saw videos on those up on my channel. We have the TechCraft Superfly 4, which gave us a leather variation of the Superfly 4. Pretty interesting there. We have the Academy Pack Superfly 4, which is definitely probably my favorite general release colorway of the Superfly 4. This was a really well received one too. All black. You wouldn't think it'd be that popular, but people really seem to go crazy when Nike does the all black colorway releases. This one was, like I said, extremely popular. You've got the paint splatter looking Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. These were, what were they called? The Electro Flare. You have the second colorway release of the Superfly 4 in an AG variation, as you guys can see. All black with the white outline and then a little bit of kind of pink at the top of the collar. Really good looking colorway as well. You've got the shine through colorway of the Superfly 4. You've got the second TechCraft variation of the Superfly 4 also with a kangaroo leather upper. Next to those, you have the original Hyper Punch Nike Mercurial Superfly 4s. This is one of the few shoes that I've showed you guys that is actually used. This is the pair that I actually used for testing. Wore these a lot. And the only reason why I put them in the video is just because of how much dirt and kind of grass is stuck in these. I was in the process of moving, and I think I wore them pretty much right before I moved, and it happened to be a really muddy day, and I just didn't feel like cleaning them, so I threw them in the box, and I'm kind of rediscovering them right now, that they are that dirty, and I'm probably going to get to cleaning them right after I make this video. Oh, didn't even realize that I put this shoe in the video twice. This is just the firm ground variation, as you guys can see, the same colorway I just showed you right there in AG. We have a brand new pair of the World Cup Hyper Punch Superfly 4s in the soft ground variation. Did want to keep a pair in brand new condition, given that it was the first colorway. We have this particular colorway right here, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember these being part of a pack. I probably am wrong, but this is the kind of orangish yellow colorway of the Superfly 4. Really, really good looking with the white and black Nike swoosh. Probably one of the more simple ones, I would say, that they've released as of late. Moving on, we have the most recent CR7 colorway, which is the Savage Beauty one. You guys are plenty familiar with those. We've got the Highlight Pack Superfly 4, and then we're moving on to Vapors. I think there's one more Superfly just because of how it's organized, but you got the Women's World Cup Vapor 10, really good looking colorway. Again, the Savage Beauty Vapor 10 CR7 signature. You've got the Highlight Pack Vapor 10 in pink with the black outline for the Nike swoosh. You've got the Liquid Chrome Vapor 10. You've got the TechCraft Vapor 10, which is an interesting release because going back to the Vapor 1, there was actually kind of a limited kangaroo leather version of that shoe. And for the longest time, Mercurial fans, Vapor fans, they've always asked Nike for a kangaroo leather version of the shoe again. And they gave us one in the form of the Vapor 4 that was actually available exclusively at a specific Nike store in London, I believe, if you went and got them like basically custom made. So finally, so you go from 4 to Vapor 10, they finally gave us a general release version of the kangaroo leather Vapor. And quite frankly, I don't think it's been as well received as Nike perhaps would have hoped. The whole TechCraft thing in the first place, it just hasn't been the most successful kind of business venture, which I guess kind of proves a point. Nike knows best, I think, to a certain extent. They're still obviously going on with the TechCraft pack. They just unveiled a new pack as of late, as I'm making this video, the white and black ones. But for the most part, the regular, all full synthetic versions of pretty much all of these shoes are by far outselling the TechCraft pack. And I think a lot of people will say that it's been the colorways that have been the issue. But for the most part, I think that most kids, which is the majority of people buying these things, they want something colorful and they want the synthetic version. It's just that simple. Next to those, you've got a pair of Hyper Punch World Cup colorways of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. Next to those, you got the Silverware CR7 Vapor 10. And next to those, you got the second variation, second colorway variation, which is pretty much all black with the white outline for the swoosh, and then of course the pink there in the actual insole and heel liner. Next to those, the final row here, you've got the most recent Bright Mango colorway of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. One thing that I will say is that I haven't kept all the shoes that I've kind of made videos on over the years. I wish there's some that I would have kept, and one that comes to mind in particular is the Vapor 8 in this Bright Mango colorway. Really, really wish I hung on to those. It would be really cool to compare them to this exact colorway, but nonetheless, here they are, guys. What's this current pack called? Metal Flash, because it does have the metallic silver Nike swoosh there, and then of course you have the Vapor 10 that pretty much pays tribute directly to that Vapor 8 that I was just talking about, and that this shoe does have that similar kind of peach fuzz-like texturing to it. I talk about that specifically in my video on these if you want to check it out. Next to those, we have the Stealth Pack Nike Mercurial, not Stealth Pack. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this was called the Stealth Pack. This is the Academy Pack Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. Really good looking colorway, black on black, never go wrong with that. Next to those, you've got the Electro Flare Vapor 10. Next to those, you got those orange Vapor 10s that go with obviously the Superfly. Looks a little bit different just because you have two different types of materials for the upper, one Flyknit, one Tatian synthetic. And then finally, we've got the Gala Glimmer Nike Mercurial Vapor 10, the first signature colorway for CR7 of the current Mercurial generation. So that, folks, is my entire Nike Mercurial collection. I'll kind of walk to the front here and give you guys one more quick look at it. It's, like I said, roughly 80 pairs if I counted correctly. I probably didn't though. And that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more collection videos, let me know down below in the comment section of this video. If you have any questions at all, leave them down below in the comments. And again, if you're looking for videos on any of these shoes, I believe there's videos for pretty much everything. So just do a quick YouTube search and you should be able to find it. Other than that though, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.